Welcome to the Hope Unlocked podcast. I'm your host, Kristin Kurtz, and I'm also the founder of New Wings Coaching. I help and empower wild-hearted and adventurous women of faith feeling caged and stuck unlock their true purpose and potential, break free from limitations, and thrive with confidence, courage, and hope. If you're curious to learn more about coaching with me, head to newwingscoaching.net and be sure to explore the show notes for ways to connect with me further. Get ready to dive in as we uncover empowering keys and insights in this episode. So tune in and let's unlock hope together. Welcome to the Hope Unlocked podcast. I'm Kristin Kurtz, your host. I pray this episode is like a holy IV of hope for your soul. Please help me welcome Mark Foster to the show. I am so excited to have him here today. We have just been talking a little bit before we got started, and he is a mutual connection through a friend of ours named Jennifer. And I would love for you to just tell us a little bit about yourself before we get into your story. How does that
Okay. Yeah. Kristin, thank you so much. This is always the worst part of every interview. Like, just tell us a little bit about yourself.
I know, I do that on purpose.
What do I say? So,
okay,
real 20,000 foot view. I've been married to my wonderful wife for a specific number of years. And if I could remember which one it was, I would tell you, but it's more than 20 and less than 30. And we have 4 wonderful children. 2 of them are adults. And we have 2 boys and 2 girls. The 2 girls are still at home with us. I've been a pastor for 21 years, and I'm also a professional storyteller and been working on building that business out. I also run a handyman business. So I have a lot of irons in the fire, and we're a homeschool family. So just a lot of stuff. That's a lot of stuff going on. So that should tell you that there's one thing about me is like, I'm not really good at saying no to things because I have all this stuff. But we live in Maine. I grew up in Maine, and we live in Maine, and I love it.
That's amazing. Well, I love, some of us are called to be, like, I would call myself like multi-passionate. Would you say that's what you would kind of lean into as well?
I would like to call myself that. Yes. Because the alternative is I'm just undisciplined. So multi-passionate sounds so much nicer.
Yeah, because I think sometimes, at least for me, like in the business world or just, in all the places that we end up sometimes, or just seeing things on social media or different avenues are like, oh, you need to like just do one thing.
Yeah.
Have you heard that a lot?
I have, and I just get a knot in my stomach when people tell me I'm supposed to only do one thing. I'm like, there's so many things in the world that I want to do.
Yes.
I can't choose just one.
Yes. Well, so you have pastor, handyman, storyteller. How did you get led into like maybe the first one? Or have you done all of these things?
Yeah, no, I've been a pastor full time since I was 25. So I was really young. I didn't look to be a senior pastor at 25. It's just the door that God opened and we stepped through it. My dad was a pastor, so I'm the second of 7 boys. I'm the only one that went into full-time ministry. So my dad always said he hoped that he'd have a son that would follow his steps in the ministry, but he never pressured us to. But I know that God called me to do that. Yeah. And so I started doing that first. I went to Bible college out of high school, and then worked a couple of years as an associate pastor in San Antonio. And then the Lord opened the door in North Carolina. So we pastored there for 11 years before moving here in 2016 to pastor here in our home state of Maine. So that's how I started with that. And it was after moving here in the last few years that these other business endeavors have surfaced.
Okay. Well, the storytelling, I love, like you, I love stories, and I feel I love hearing people's stories. I love telling stories, but it's like, have you always loved hearing people's stories? Like, are you like a great listener? I would love to hear kind of more of that area of what you're doing even now and how you led into that.
Yeah. So I'm from a family of storytellers. Like, as a kid, we loved to sit and listen to my father tell stories of his childhood at family get-togethers, especially on my dad's side, but also on my mom's. There was a lot of time taken to share the stories about our family's past in those individual moments. So I grew up loving to hear stories. And then as a pastor, I listened to a lot of people's stories.
Yeah.
But I remember back in probably 2010, around there, I was preaching, and I wasn't leaning into storytelling. I had fallen into the trap of just delivering the message, right?
Mm.
Rushing to the moral, just like, I need to tell people these things. They don't need to hear stories. They need to hear the truth, you know?
Yeah.
And I noticed one week that people were just, they weren't listening, like they were falling asleep or they were zoning out. And it was like obvious that they weren't paying attention. And I went home really frustrated. And I
Oh.
told my wife, people, this is so important, but I can't get people to listen no matter how hard I try.
Mhm.
And she said, well, have you tried maybe slowing down a little bit on all of the stuff and
Mhm.
maybe tell a few stories about why it should matter to people?
Yeah.
And I realized I totally forgot about this most important thing.
Oh.
Then I had to figure out, well, how do you do that in something as important as preaching
Yeah.
and delivering a sermon? So some trial and error, started leaning into that, started honing that craft, and I knew I had started to get where I wanted to be when people started telling me, I remember a story you told me a year ago, or I heard you speak 5 years ago, and I don't remember everything you said, but you told this story about X, Y, or Z. And I
Mhm.
knew then, one, that I was starting to get the hang of it, and two, how powerful stories are.
Oh my
Because
gosh.
I grew up in a pastor's home. I heard thousands and thousands of sermons. I also went to a Christian school, so there was lectures and chapel services. And I don't remember hardly anything I heard in those, but I remember stories. Like, I can remember stories. Stories stick in our minds in a way that,
Mhm.
I don't know, like data and bullet points just don't, and started developing that skill set.
Yeah.
Um, and it's something that, I've become even more and more passionate about the longer I do it.
Wow. So you like I'm just kind of curious when you were going through, school to become a pastor, like
Mhm.
is that an element that you were taught about storytelling
No,
at
no,
all? Oh,
absolutely
not?
not. In
Wow.
in fact, maybe the opposite.
Hmm.
Um, like, people, in fact, okay, so I was taught, you're young, you're just starting out. When you're young in the pastorate, stick close to the Bible because you don't have any stories, you don't have any experiences yet. Maybe when you get older, you can start telling stories.
Okay.
So we were taught and trained, and I don't know how widespread that idea is, but we were taught and trained, don't try and tell any stories because you haven't done anything yet. And I think there's a lot of errors in that idea, but uh, so I was doing what I had been taught to do, and it wasn't working.
Right. So do you remember your first, like you said people gave you feedback on some of
Mhm.
these stories. Do you remember one of the first stories that you told that was impactful? Ever hear something on this show that stirs something deep, like a nudge from God that there's more? That's stirring. It's not random. I'm Kristin Kurtz, host of Hope Unlocked and the founder of New Wings Coaching, and I'm inviting you into a 45-minute unlocking session, a sacred space to press in, hear what heaven is saying, and activate your next bold step. If you're a trailblazer or kingdom voice ready to break free from doubt and live fully alive, this is for you. Book now at newwingscoaching.net/hopeunlocked for special listener pricing. You were born to live uncaged and unapologetically bold. Now back to the show. I know.
I don't
Aiming
actually
here.
no, I don't think I know. I don't think I know what that first one is. There are stories that I've told over the years. For example, the story of my brother's when my brother died. I have my second to the youngest brother when he died tragically. I tell that story. And that one has stuck in a lot of people's minds. I have a story that's more of a humorous story about um, trying to put out a fire on an anthill that I started with gasoline. And it's just, one mistake and misstep after another in this huge black cloud of smoke, and tying that in to the sermon that I was delivering. And people said, I don't remember what that sermon was completely about, but I remember that story. That might have been one of the first ones where I really tried to lean into a story, and they came back and said, I'll never forget that story. Made me
Okay.
laugh, but I also remember what the point of it was.
And what was the point?
The point on the point of that one,
I'm
well,
really curious now.
yeah, the point of that
Tell us
one
more. Tell us more.
on a practical level is don't try to burn an anthill with gasoline.
Okay.
But secondly, just um, when you start off with one bad decision,
Mm,
responding in fear and chaos,
mm,
trying to undo that first bad decision can lead to greater and greater chaos,
yeah.
rather than just stopping for a second and thinking through, what
Mm,
have I done and how should I be responding to this, but continuing to say, I can fix this, I can fix this, I can fix this. And everything you try
mm,
makes it worse.
yeah.
And so, and just the potential damage that you can cause to those around you and to your testimony and everything else.
Wow.
So that the whole point of that message was stopping in the middle of the chaos
Mhm.
to get help that you need um,
So
when you
good.
don't know what to do.
That's so good. Like you need support, right?
Yeah,
I just
absolutely.
did a video today talking about, do you have the right support? And it's actually kind of a funny story, but I won't talk about it here today.
Oh, I like to hear it.
It's actually it's actually really funny. But I'll it's maybe more like woman appropriate.
Okay, fair enough.
Um, anyways, so you're learning about stories and
Mhm.
do you like did you just get the sense that like did you have training to learn about stories? Did you feel like Holy Spirit was like training you on how to do this? Because I know there's definitely out in the world there's different I know even kingdom people who
Mhm.
have these storytelling frameworks and
Yep.
um
Yep.
what did that look like for you to step into this?
For me, it looked like self-taught. I think I have a natural aptitude for telling stories, but that's not enough in any area of life. You
Yeah.
can have a natural gift, but you can go so much farther if you work to hone it.
Yeah.
And so, not knowing exactly where, I started looking for the people around me that I thought told good stories in the kind of way that I would want to tell them,
Okay.
and started studying them. So, an early influence for me is the comedian Ken Davis,
And Davis. I haven't heard of him.
who's a Christian author and speaker. Ruth was
Okay.
story just captured me. And
Truth. Hmm.
so I read he has, when I read that, I started just watching or listening to as many videos and audio that I could from people who were really, really good storytellers, and taking notes.
Yeah.
And I recognize that there's a lot of different ways to tell stories. And
Mhm.
so it was mostly just self-taught, a lot of reading, a lot of study, and a lot of trial and error to see what makes a good story,
Yeah.
and how can I use my natural voice to tell stories in a way that make a difference to people.
Okay. And how long have you been coming alongside people to help them in this realm?
On
Right.
in this is relatively new, so just for a year that I've been working to do this in a professional capacity.
Okay.
I've helped people in a off the books capacity for a while. I would talk to other pastors, or I would talk to other public speakers,
Mhm.
and work with them to hone their public presentation and how to deliver stories, and encourage other people to tell their stories. But about it about a year ago, when I was challenged, finally, like, you're really good at telling stories, you should teach other people this. And I'm like, dang it, is there a market for that? I didn't even know that
Right.
was a thing. But if I could, I would love to do that.
Um,
So so I
Amazing.
said, well, if this is something that I could do on a professional level, I would love to do that.
Yeah. So what does that look like? What does Mark do to come alongside somebody and what is the name of your business?
Uh, Master Storycraft is masterstorycraft.com is my website, and it's a work in progress, but there's a lot of information there already.
Mhm.
I also teach workshops. In fact, I have one coming up on the 25th of this month that I host. This is my level one storytelling workshop where I introduce a framework that I use in my own storytelling. It's one that I came up with and created. And so I teach people how to find those stories. So if you got something you want to say but you don't know how, this is how
Mhm.
you do that. And it's a beginning workshop or a level one workshop. And then I'm in the process of crafting the follow up workshops for telling stories in whatever medium you choose. There's a
Okay.
difference between telling a story from the stage or in
Mhm.
front of a camera or in a text based medium like Facebook. And
Right.
so if there's a way that somebody really wants to tell stories, but they don't want to type, I don't want to write my stories. I want to tell them. Well, there's a little bit different way to do that. So let's talk about doing that. And then I'm
Okay.
also working to build relationships in business and in nonprofit space to help people who stand in front of people on a regular basis, whether
Mhm.
on a stage or just in an office, just in a company office, and try to to deliver the daily talk. And here's how
Mhm.
you can communicate these important things using the medium of storytelling.
Amazing. So you definitely have a teaching gift, right?
I think so. Yes, I believe so.
Sure. And, to be able to come alongside people, would you say it's a little bit of like coaching and consulting mixture
Yes.
too?
Yeah. So I didn't mention, but like one-on-one working with people in
Okay.
coaching and then also in consulting.
Okay.
Absolutely. Because it's one thing to be told how to do it, but
Right.
like in some areas in my life right now, other than storytelling, I'm having to work with someone to help me learn. You
Hmm.
can tell it to me, but now I need to go out and do it. And when I do it, I fall down and it's
Yeah.
frustrating. And so I need someone there to say, okay, but you thought you were doing this, but really you were doing this. And
Right.
storytelling's a lot like that.
Okay. Yeah. Would you say that? uh, I'm just going to ask you, and I think I know the
Yeah.
answer to this question, but I feel like there's a lot of things in our life that we weren't taught. Like I said to somebody the
Mm-hmm.
other day, like nobody taught me how to dress. Like,
Mm-hmm.
for real. Would you say that this is an area that, people maybe you're looking at people, I'm sure you're on social media and you're kind of looking at the landscape going, oh my gosh, like I could so help you. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what are you doing?
Absolutely.
So what are your thoughts on that? Like what would you say is the biggest, I don't want to call it mistake because a lot of times people, you don't know what you don't
Right.
know, right?
Right.
But what could be like the biggest like key that you could give somebody who's out there, without giving away too much, if you
Yeah.
want to?
I'll give away the farm. Um,
Okay,
I
there you go.
think I think that one of the biggest hindrances to that I see online is I mentioned it earlier, but everybody's rushing to the moral. And
Mm,
so one of the things that I say in my workshops and I've said online is if you only gave me 3 minutes to talk, I would
mm,
want to tell you a story. Like if that's all I had time to do, I'd rather tell a story and not give any instruction because I want my story to contain that instruction, but also because storytelling is that powerful.
mhm.
It's more likely that people are going to remember it. But everybody seems, and everybody's a broad word, broad brush, but so many people are so worried about getting to the point that they brush past the story. And I think people just scroll right on by. So like I'm getting preached at every time I get onto Facebook. Like, here's what you're doing wrong. Here's what I'm doing right. Here's what everybody else is doing wrong. It's like
Yeah.
somebody just tell me a story, and
Yeah.
I'll stop and listen. So I think that's one of the biggest hindrances and mistakes,
Mhm.
maybe through lack of knowledge, is
Mhm.
how important it is that you tell a good story. So I tell people, I'm going to help you I'm going to help you learn how to tell better stories and how to tell the ones you are telling better.
Okay.
And because that's going to be really helpful for you.
And you found this to be, so like for myself, like I'm a coach
Hmm.
and I feel like I'm telling a story, but I'm sure that I could do better at telling
Hmm.
stories. Like my video I did today, it was a funny story, but just maybe give us an example of somebody you've worked with,
Hmm.
and how you've helped them go from, kind of like what were they doing before and now what are they doing with their whether it's their social media or their
Yeah.
stage presence, or
Yep.
would you be willing to share something
Sure.
a
Yeah,
story?
absolutely.
Share a
So
story with us.
yeah. So, well, so I don't know if this will fit the bill, but in my last workshop, we
Mhm.
had a doctor, a full-time doctor on the workshop, and they said, I don't, I want to use storytelling, but they were afraid because in the medical field, everybody's angry at doctors because you had you arrived at your appointment, you sat in the room for 45 minutes and you're late, and the doctor comes in and they're only in there for 15 minutes, and then they leave, and then they didn't do this and they didn't do that, and then you get the bill and everybody's angry. And she said, I feel like it's hard because people can't see me as a person.
Oh,
And so on the workshop, I said, well, tell me a story about something that you would want to share on
mhm.
social media about you as a person.
Yeah.
And she thought for a minute and she told us this wonderful story about a exercise that she and some other doctors were brought into. It was a painting exercise, and
Mhm.
how as a perfectionist she began to paint, and they were like, just paint what you want to paint, don't worry about it being perfect. And she said, and I was being so judgmental, and I hated what I did, but I painted it. And then they said, now let's step away from it, walk away from your painting and come over here for a little while, and then and then go back and look at your painting again. And she said, when I went back and looked at my painting after stepping away from it, I could still see some of the errors that I wanted to fix, but I felt like I did that. That's something that I did. And she said, it's really hard for me not to be hard on myself.
Mm.
And she's telling this story. And one of the other guys in the workshop said, well, I'll tell you what, I'm the one of those people that's always hard on my doctors. But
Oh,
listening to you tell that story made me think I should be nicer to my doctor because they're a real person with struggles too.
oh my
Know,
gosh.
they come into the room with their white coat and their stethoscope and their clipboard, and they're like, I know everything. But they're
Mhm.
just a person behind that with doubts and fears and struggles. And I think she saw in that moment how powerful it was to tell a story from her personal life in a way that, even if it didn't help her, could help
Right.
other doctors be seen as more human
Oh,
and real. So I think I love it when that kind of thing happens, when people realize your personal stories do matter, and they can help you and they can help many other people by hearing them.
yes. And it's got me like curious because
Mhm.
that's, I'm very curious. I love that, this doctor was able to, even me, I'm like, oh, like I'm like leaning in, like, what is she gonna, like, what's gonna happen here? Um,
Yeah.
and I'm always very curious about stories, and I'm sure some people maybe aren't as curious, but what would you say about, I don't know, everybody's walking through something, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And what would you say to somebody, like even like myself, I said the other day, to somebody, I'm walking through something, like we're always walking through something, but
Yeah.
I'm kind of in the middle, like kind of that messy middle in one area of my life. And you don't want to necessarily like, at least for me, I don't feel like I want to tell the story until
Yes,
maybe the story is like kind of more complete, if that makes sense.
it does.
So how do you navigate that? Does that
It
like
does.
how does one
So
navigate those types of things?
so storytelling and the word story is really, it has become a buzzword, and it means a lot of different things to people. Like it's like own your story, or are you in the right story? And that has a place, but it really muddies the water. When I'm talking about stories, I'm talking about actual stories. And a good story, the difference between an anecdote and a story is a story has a moment of illumination or transformation. So
Mm,
if you're in the middle of something, that's not a story that you can tell yet.
mhm,
But there might be a moment within that messy middle that would make a good story. A good
mm,
story is made of a single moment, a moment when you realized something.
yeah.
I walked out of Walmart recently and could not find my Jeep anywhere. And I knew I had parked it at a given location. I walked up and down the rows and I
Mhm.
couldn't find it. And I'm thinking, somebody stole my Jeep. Like I waited my whole life to have a Jeep and now someone has stolen it. That's no, Mark, nobody stole your Jeep. You just don't remember where you parked it. And so I took the panic button and I'm
Yeah.
pressing the panic button and holding it above my head and it's not going off. Then I remembered that someone said if you hold those things in your mouth, your body becomes an amplifier
Oh my
and
gosh.
it can reach it from farther away. So I'm walking up and down the road with the remote control in my mouth, pressing the panic button, and still no Jeep. Like I can't. Now I'm starting to think, no, I'm not wrong. Somebody did stole my Jeep. And then
Yeah.
I said, God, I waited my whole life for this Jeep. And now somebody stole it. Like, where is my Jeep? You know where my Jeep is, tell me right now.
Yeah.
And as I'm having this conversation with God and I'm really worked up and everything is going wrong because my Jeep is gone. I walked past an orange colored RAV4 and I thought to myself, I have one that looks just like that. And I kept on walking and then I thought, wait a second.
I know.
I have one exactly like that. And I realized I didn't drive my Jeep to Walmart. I drove my RAV. I hadn't forgotten where I parked my Jeep. I had forgotten what vehicle I even drove to Walmart.
That's classic.
And I realized that sometimes, again, I can get worked up over the dumbest things, and God is patient with knuckleheads. And when I prayed to him, Lord, show me where my Jeep was, he couldn't, but he could show me where my RAV was. And
Oh,
I love that relationship with God where he's so patient and he knows that we don't know the
mhm.
things that we think we do. We're so certain and sometimes we're wrong.
Mhm.
And that's a silly story, but everybody's done something like that.
I love it.
And it's a single moment in a relatively ordinary day that
Yeah.
can be, and I don't even have to change it by saying, and here's the 10 things I learned from this. Like
Right.
just a simple statement at the end.
Mhm.
And the next time somebody can't find their car, then maybe they'll remember that.
I love that.
So what I'm saying is think smaller when you're
Mhm.
thinking about the stories and say, well, I don't have anything important enough to tell. Every day things are happening to you that would make great stories.
Every day. Yeah.
The question is, are you paying attention to those moments of illumination or inspiration?
Mm.
Lean into those and say, there's something here that
Yeah.
would make a great story. Um,
Yes. I mean, this is so like just even the timing of this because it's really been highlighted for me to share more stories.
mhm.
I think sometimes and I don't know. Maybe we all do this. It's like, oh, I don't know what I'm going to talk about, or it's like, I don't know, how do I even organize this, or how do I write this? And
Yes.
what I've just been doing a lot lately, I've actually challenged myself in September to, I would say Monday through Friday is my goal to go on
Yes.
and do like a less than 3 minute video. And most
Yep.
of it, I tried to, I created like a Google Doc of like, oh, I'll share this on this day, and
Hmm.
oh my goodness, I don't even go there. It's
I
like, oh
know.
my gosh, I have a new story to tell like every day.
Yes.
Um, so are you kind of, I know I've heard people, I'm trying to remember the terminology. It's like work reverse something, like
Like
start with
reverse
the end.
engineering.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. Are you kind of thinking about that? Like even when you were having that Jeep moment, were you
Hmm.
thinking like, oh my gosh, I need to share this? Like,
I was then because I'm in the mode of looking for story moments in my life.
Mhm.
And I got that idea from Matthew Dix of he wrote the book Storyworthy.
Okay.
Um, and he really encouraged people, like if you're not keeping a record of those moments, those story
Yeah.
moments, then you'll forget them. And so
Okay.
for a long time now I've been keeping a list when a thing happens. And here's
Mhm.
what, so if something happens in my life and immediate it's like everything goes on pause
Mhm.
and this one moment becomes important in an otherwise ordinary day. I've learned to say there's a reason that is sticking out to me. That
Mhm.
person's response,
Mhm.
that person's interaction with me,
Mhm.
that knocked me off script for a reason. And there's something really important here. And it's not always things when I do it right. Sometimes it's when I do something wrong.
Mhm.
And those can sometimes be more powerful to share. That's another thing that I think sometimes we're doing incorrectly or less than optimally on social media is everybody's everybody wants to be the expert that I have this figured out. And you can definitely overshare. And then there's the term trauma dumping, and
Yeah.
there's no redemption in it. It's just all bad. But when you go through something where you learn a lesson
Yeah.
that is powerful and important, even though it's small, those
Mhm.
can be incredibly personalizing stories. And
Mhm.
other people can say, finally, somebody else that understands what it feels like to do that.
Yeah.
So sharing those can be incredibly powerful um,
Mhm.
as well. But then once you're looking for them, you can keep a list. And
Yeah.
I have a list of story moments that I haven't crafted into
Oh,
actual stories yet,
okay.
but I recorded the moment so that I could go back to it, because once you have the moment, you still need to know how to craft it into a
Mhm.
good story. Um,
Mhm. Wow. So are you naturally a writer, would you say? Like, or are you having to really partner with God, kind of like Holy Ghost writer to come up with something? Are you literally like typing? Are you verbalizing it to get it
I
out?
yeah, I love to write. I love to write. I don't
You-
know if I'm good at it, but I love to write. And I heard something years ago that thoughts become disentangled when they pass over the lips and across pencil tips.
Wow.
And so in the process of verbalizing or in the process of writing, I find a lot of clarity that
Hmm.
that comes out, and then I'm able to put it all out there and then go back and refine it before clicking, publish or send.
Okay. And would you say that you prefer to share your story written or verbally or video? Like what is
Oh,
your
that's
like
so
favorite
hard.
mode?
I love all of it, but I love more than anything else having a discussion with people, whether that's one on one or standing from a stage and interacting with a live audience.
Okay.
Storytelling, if you can get past the nerves,
Mhm.
storytelling in person is
Mhm.
so incredibly rewarding because you can see in real time how what you're saying is landing with the people that you're talking to.
Sure.
And it's writing it is good. In fact, it might in some ways be better, but it's a delayed gratification. I found
Okay.
you have to
Mm.
wait. Is anybody going to read this? Is it going to hit? Are they going to
Yeah.
resonate with it?
Hmm.
So
Do
I
you
love I, I
find that
love
people love what you're sharing, like on social media too, like in the written aspects when you're sharing stories?
I'd like to think so. I certainly hear a lot that they do.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to find. I mean, none of us are experts in the sense of having everything right, and so I'm still learning on this
Yeah.
journey as well. And
Mhm.
when it comes to social media, I'm I'm still struggling with how people want to read.
Mm. Yeah.
And because people are like, Jennifer talks about this, our friend Jennifer's, too much white space, not enough white space, or too many words. And I'm like, well, I mean, there are some stories that you can't say in just a few words. And yet
Yeah.
one of the most powerful stories that I've ever heard
Mhm.
was um, um, was 4 words.
Wow.
And I
Do
can't
you remember what
remember.
those words are? Because I might.
Yeah, I think it was Emerson who was talking to people about writing and telling them how important it was. I may be getting that attribution wrong, but he said, I think it was 5 words, um, or maybe six. Now, anyway, infant shoes for sale, never worn.
Wow.
And when
Wow.
you just sit with those words, infant shoes for sale, never worn,
Mhm.
there's I mean, all kinds of things flood into your mind: emotions,
Yeah.
questions,
Yeah.
um, sadness, depending upon your background. And that's the power of a good story: it engages the imagination and emotion of the audience um,
Mhm.
with their own personal story. That's how you know you've told a story well, I think, when
Yeah.
is when people respond with one of their own.
Yes.
It's like
Like
that
if you were to
resonant.
come, somebody would come up to you maybe after
Hmm.
a speaking engagement and be like, "Oh my gosh, your story
Yeah.
like connects to my
Yes.
story." Okay, I
Yeah,
see.
and that used to irritate me at first, right? Because I would tell a story either online or in person, and people
Yeah.
would come up and say, "Let me tell you one of mine." I'd be like, "This isn't about you. This is about me. I'm the storyteller. I'm the speaker." Because I didn't realize that what they were doing was resonating. They
Yeah.
were
Like
saying, "I
making that
saw
connection.
myself in your story,"
Mm-hmm.
uh,
Mm-hmm.
and that's powerful. That's storytelling gold when you get that kind of response.
Wow. So do you think do you think that's a big part of where we're missing it? Because again, like I do feel like there's been just even over the years, I've been in business for doing one thing or the other for, gosh, 13 years. And it seems like you could reach people
Hmm.
without telling a story, to like, you know, connect with them a little
Yes.
bit easier to get to the DM is what they would say, like, to
Right.
connect, maybe somebody you don't know.
Hmm.
What I'm noticing is that, and I've heard people say, like, let's just say, for example, like you or I were starting, we're gonna have a workshop or we're gonna do
Hmm.
something coming up in a month, and it's like it might take, and I don't know what the statistics are, so I might be wrong with this, but it might take somebody like 30 times for them to
Mm.
see the same post, the same
Yeah.
newsletter, to like have them take a step, and I'm like, that's ridiculous.
Right.
Don't you
That's a
think?
lot. It is, and I do think what you're hitting on is accurate. It's just because we are information heavy,
Yeah,
just
overload.
so much information. One of my favorite illustrations of this, the children of this world are wiser sometimes than the children of light. But
Mm.
last year's Super Bowl, I'm not a sports guy, but I watch the advertisements because those are the best part. Last year, Super Bowl, the average cost investment that companies made for the privilege of delivering an ad was $7 million.
For
So they
one ad?
for one ad, for one 30-second ad.
Jeez.
And when you watch those ads, people watch those ads every year for one reason, because they are micro stories. So
Mm.
companies spend $7 million and they don't even talk about their product overtly. They just tell you a story.
Mm.
For example, this last year, they've got
Mhm.
Jason Momoa dancing. T-Mobile has Jason Momoa doing this auto tune, autocorrect, dance out there, and they don't even talk about how awesome their cell phone service is. But they told this silly story about two guys dancing and throwing a party, and you get the idea. Oh, T-Mobile and their internet speeds make that a party without interruption. Then they had two grandmas chasing this guy who took the last bag of the favorite Dorito chips, and like two grandma hitmen, and like it was it was just a fun story. Or you get a vehicle like a Ford or Chevy
Mhm.
put this tear-jerking story about grandma and Alzheimer's and Christmas dinner and Chevy. And
Mhm.
they won't say our cars have more power than everybody else's. They're just
Mhm.
like, let me tell you a story. And then I want you to remember that emotion when you think about buying a car.
Mhm.
And so if companies will spend $7 million to tell you a story, we should be paying attention to how powerful that is.
Yes. You got my brain like spinning right now. I'm sure there's other, I'm a lot of the women and then definitely some men who listen in. I
Mhm.
believe that they're, entrepreneurs and ministry.
Mhm.
So I definitely feel like you carry, I love to talk about keys and unlocking and
Mhm.
ways that people can truly, I like to say cut through the noise because it is,
Yeah.
it's so noisy on social media. And
Yes.
sometimes I like to call it like stop, drop, and roll and roll out.
Yes.
Like stop, like drop something to encourage, and then I dip out. But um yeah, I do feel like there's a different way, there's a shift happening, and
Hmm.
I do really feel like you're on the cusp of something really beautiful here, especially doing it, from a pastoring teacher
Hmm.
perspective, like kingdom, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I think there's a lot of work to do even in the church. Just last Sunday, I came home and opened up social media and I saw a prominent figure who said, "We need more Bible and less stories in the pulpit."
Oh, good.
I know what they're saying, but like three-quarters of the Bible is a story. So
Exactly.
there's more story than didactic teaching in that book.
Yeah.
And so I know what he means, but I think he's wrong.
Mm.
We need good stories. We don't need just rambling and disconnected and unintentional stories, but we need good stories in the pulpit that can help drive a truth into our hearts.
Yeah, and especially like with, we're seeing a lot of people being
Hmm.
led back to church,
Yeah.
and I mean, like you and I, we love stories.
Yeah.
The movies I watch are usually about underdogs, overcomers,
Yes. Yep.
seeing people go from like, wow, that's amazing. Like you went
Yes.
from there to here.
Yep.
And I know that like I love hearing the transformation stories, which kind of ties into, I've heard kind of through the grapevine, maybe in the marketing world, to, really talk about the solution that you offer, like
Okay. Yeah.
the problem you solve.
Mm.
Like, how would you tie that in with a story, like as an example? So, based on what you do, I'm
Hmm.
kind of having you like go off the cuff, or maybe if you've ever put something out there before, how would you share that
How would I
in the story?
share?
Yeah, how would you share kind of your solution to like somebody's problem out there in story?
I guess it would depend upon which problem that I'm trying to address.
Yeah.
Um,
So let's say somebody is really challenged in marketing and social
mhm,
media, and they're like, I just don't even know what to post. And here comes Mark. He's like,
mhm.
I can help you with stories.
Yeah. So,
How would
okay.
you share like how you could help somebody through a story? I guess maybe that's a better way to ask.
Okay. I would probably retell, or in one case, I would tell that story about the doctor,
Mm,
and how she really wanted, her marketing was, I want doctors to be seen as more human. I want people to know that we're human too,
yeah.
and figured out that telling her personal stories were the better way to do that, rather than just getting onto social media and saying doctors are people too, right? Which
Yeah.
is true, but now
Yeah.
you're rushing to the moral. So I would tell a story like that to say, here's how one person in their context um,
Mhm.
delivered their message through their own personal stories.
Mhm.
I talk about hope and growth a lot,
Yeah.
and um, I would rather share a story. I have a lot of them that I could share a quick story to say, hey, I'm growing and I'm changing, but here's a story how just the other day I
Mhm.
I failed at this again, and that's okay, because here's what
Mhm.
I learned. Um,
Yeah.
so I would encourage them, if I don't care what the business model is, if it's marketing, it's like, I
Yeah.
don't know how to, I want to sell things to people. How is storytelling going to do that? Well,
Right.
the age old, people buy things from those they know, like, and trust, which
Mhm.
might be true. I have my doubts, always.
Yeah.
Um, well, for example, if I'm going to go to a doctor, I'd rather go to a doctor that doesn't know me than one that's known me since I was two, because I'm just a private person. So a perfect stranger works for me in that case.
Mhm.
Um, but if that's true, what's the quickest path to earning something that feels like and trust or
Mhm.
know?
Yeah.
The quickest path to doing that is to open your life and tell a purposeful story that
Oh.
says, I'm a real person too.
Mm.
And then, this is what I do. Here's a story about me. And then someone says, I'm looking for a real estate agent. I just did a storytelling talk with real estate agents the other day, and I said, they're everywhere.
Yeah.
But if I'm looking to buy a house and I was just on social media and I saw a realtor share a story about a challenge or a way that they came through for their client the other day, and just told the story and just left it there, like, that's the
Mhm.
real estate agent I want.
Yeah.
My Jeep right now is having an engine replaced in it, which I'm not thrilled with, but it
Yeah.
needed to be done. And I
Mhm.
chose a mechanic who, in our town, who just shared a story a few weeks ago about that illustrated how he goes to bat for his customers to get them the best price and get them back in their vehicle. And I was like, I need a mechanic that I feel gets the problem, and that guy gets it. And
Yeah.
so he's working on my Jeep right now because of a
Okay.
story. I don't know if he's the best mechanic in the world, but that
Yeah.
story was powerful. And
Okay.
like, again, you have 1,001 voices in the world that are coming at you. Who will you remember? How will you be remembered?
Yes.
It's going to
Yeah.
be through storytelling.
Mm. I'm just really excited for you.
Thank
I'm
you.
excited for the work that the Lord's called you into, and I do have to ask about the handyman work too. Tell us a little bit about
Sure.
that.
Yeah. So the handyman work was a way for me. So I grew up in a pastor's home. So we
Yeah.
grew up pretty poor.
Okay.
In our denomination anyway, virtue and poverty go hand in hand. And
Mm.
in the 21 years that I've been a pastor, um, we've struggled financially a lot. And we had some broken mindsets around the area of money. And
Mhm.
so the handyman was a way that I could immediately take some of the skills that I had and begin to not only get out and meet people in the community, but provide uh, and make ends meet for my family.
Wow.
So it gave me that. It gave me that. It gave me hope, because
Yeah.
one of the definitions of hope that I like the most is that hope is tied to an individual's perception of their ability to act in a way that can alter their present or future in a meaningful way. It's agency, in other words. Hope
Wow.
is tied to a sense of agency.
Hmm.
That's not taking
Say
away
that
from
again,
our,
'cause I feel like
yeah,
somebody needs to hear that, being that
yeah,
we're hope unlocked here.
yeah. Hope is tied to our sense of agency.
Hmm.
That it's not taking away from our hope in God, but that God gave us abilities to do things.
Yes.
And so I can't do everything and anything that I want to do, but there's always something I can do. And
Yeah.
if I do the one thing that I can do, no matter how small, it's amazing how hope is the inevitable byproduct of that. I did something today and
Yeah.
it changed something. So when I started going out and replacing a window or fixing a toilet, and I came home with money in my pocket,
Yeah.
I pray for God to meet our needs all the
Yeah.
time. But
Yes.
God gave me this gift too. And He says, you can use that gift to go and do, and that's just as much God providing, I
Hmm.
believe, because I'm using the gifts that He gave me. And
Yes.
I didn't feel stuck anymore. Like, look, there's something I can do.
Yes.
And what I can't do, I leave to Him.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, so hope is tied to that sense of agency. So for me, the handyman business was a way of stirring up hope in my own heart and life,
Yeah.
that I could do something.
And what's the name of your handyman business?
State line small jobs.
Hmm. That's amazing. I was even thinking about it the other day. I happen to have a husband who's a handyman
Hmm.
slash he does well, he does. I would say he doesn't have as a business, but he does help people all the time.
Hmm.
And I was thinking about it the other day, just how blessed I am to have somebody who can literally fix our cars, who can fix our
Absolutely.
house, toilets. I mean, I don't know that we've really hired many people at our house before, but I got to thinking of like, what do people who don't have that do? Do they have a handyman like that they have to call all the time? Have you found that?
And
I'm just curious. I was literally thinking about
yeah.
this the other day.
Yeah, no, a lot of them don't. In fact, the reason I chose small jobs for in my title was I wanted to fill the niche and that gap in the market, because I kept
Mhm.
hearing people say nobody will call me back. The big contractors, they only want the big jobs,
Mhm.
and I just need some doorknobs replaced or a window fixed,
Yeah.
or a sink faucet replaced, and I don't know how to do that myself. And they
Mhm.
couldn't get anybody to do it because there wasn't enough money in it for them. And
Yeah.
so I wanted to step into that, and I've just found I'm building a growing list of aging clientele
Yeah, I
who
was wondering.
are just happy to have someone that will pick up the phone and come and help them with their thing,
Oh,
and doesn't charge them an arm and a leg. I don't do it for free, but they don't
yeah.
want me to do it for free. They're just happy to have me there.
Yeah.
Um, and sometimes I get cookies too.
Aw. Well, and I
Yeah.
imagine, like, I'm just imagining that you bring more than just a handyman.
Mm.
You bring stories there too.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And a little
Oh, and so
packaging
many.
maybe too.
Yeah. Well, so
And
many of
maybe
the
some
elder,
stories that come out of there.
absolutely. And a lot of the elderly folks grew up in a time where storytelling was part of what society did. We've lost it, but it's not something we've never done before.
Right.
But we don't tell stories as a society like we used to, but they remember that. And man alive, when we start talking and I
Mhm.
share a story, then they'll share a story. And those
Yeah.
stories lead to referrals because they'll call their friend and say, "You got to hire my handyman. Oh, he told me the greatest story." Um,
Oh,
and they love that.
yeah.
Um,
That's so
and yeah, so it all intersects.
yes. Well, and I'm thinking, okay, Jesus was a carpenter. He was a teacher. He was
Hmm.
a storyteller. He was a
Yeah,
priest.
he didn't do just one thing, did he?
He didn't, and you kind of encapsulate a lot of what he did. So,
Yeah.
we get to do the very things that he's called us to do, and we have so many gifts inside of us. I think so many
Yes.
people just there's so many untapped things
Yeah.
in us, right? And you get to just,
Absolutely.
and I'm sure you have a lot of joy in these times. It's not
Most
always
days I
stressful,
do.
right?
Most days I do. Yes,
So
you're
what
right.
has been the most challenging thing, you're doing kind of a cross of what I would
Hmm.
say, most it's businessry in
Right.
essence, like business and ministry. What's
Hmm.
been the most challenging aspect, maybe I would say in the last year, that you've encountered?
The biggest challenge has been transitioning to a business mindset.
Mhm.
Not that it's opposite ministry, but in a lot of ways, there's some broken thinking in the ministry mindset. But finding a way to lean into a business and help people who have only ever known me as Pastor Mark
Uh,
to see that I'm in business, I'm building a business, and
mhm.
then to get past those hurdles in my own mind when it comes to pricing and offers. And I want to help people, and
Yeah.
sometimes you think the only way you can help people is to give everything away.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
so that's been one of the biggest hurdles, is say that this is a business. Business helps people, but it's
Yeah.
okay. It's okay to charge for what you do as well.
Yeah, that's really good. I'm guessing that that is blessing somebody today
I hope so.
for sure, because I think one of the things that I haven't heard it a lot personally, in my own business, but I've heard it from others that there can be this expectation um,
Hmm.
that we, shouldn't be charging a certain amount, or we
Hmm.
should be doing this, or we shouldn't be doing that. And, I get my pricing, I ask the Lord, like, and I get a pretty clear confirmation on what I
Hmm.
have to charge. And
Yeah.
I just say, like, take it up with him. I don't know.
Yeah. There you go.
Like,
I'm
I
going to
don't,
write that down.
you can
I'm going
ask
to
my
try that.
boss.
Yeah. You could
Ask my boss.
take it up with my boss. I like that.
Up with him. He's
I
my
do like that.
I'm I'm the chief encouragement officer and he's my CEO. I don't know.
There you go. I like that a lot.
Yeah. Well, what else is he having you like stretch into this year? It's one of my favorite questions to ask. Like, is there something that you're being stretched into? Maybe you can't share it yet, but if there is
Yeah, no, I
stretch,
don't mind sharing it.
yeah.
Probably the biggest area that I'm being stretched into relates to business, and it's the issue of sales.
Okay.
Um, and I've been working with a coach to get better at that. And man, it's been so hard. And
Mm,
in fact, I just realized the other day because she said, "Mark, I think you've been doing the things you're good at
mhm,
all your life, and every time something's hard, you back away from it." And I
mm,
was like, that's not true. But then I thought, I think that's true. And
um,
every time I'm trying to learn how to make a connection or, speak to somebody on LinkedIn or somewhere or have a sales conversation, I
mm,
undermine it in some way, or I get nervous, like sweaty palms and everything. And so I'm really being stretched this year on learning how to have the confidence in what God has given me to do, and
mm,
to bring that out and not to let that fear stop me. And it has been, that might not be hard for some people, but it is still brutal for me.
oh,
Um,
yeah.
and it just, like, yeah. and I know that the Lord is stretching me in that
Mhm.
area, and he's using some people to do that. So I'm grateful for what will happen after I'm done being stretched.
Yes, that's so good. And I appreciate your vulnerability too, because
Yeah.
like it's not my favorite thing either.
Mm-mm.
I'm just like the Lord gave me a word, after I left my corporate job. And it was something that I had been reminded of. If you remember Field of Dreams, I love that.
Yes. Yeah.
He's like, if we build it, they will come. So I'm like, all right, like I'll just put my lemonade stand up and they're just gonna come.
Right. They'll all
It's
come,
fun.
and then they
And
don't.
it's not that
No.
easy.
No, because everybody and their mother has a lemonade stand.
Exactly. And it's like, well, what sets my lemonade stand apart? Our lemonade
Yeah,
stands tell stories.
that's exactly right.
So
And so a
people get
part
a
of that's
lemonade stand with stories.
yes. Well, I should start a lemonade stand and say, have a drink and I'll tell you a story, or tell me
Yes.
one. I
Yeah.
think that some of the stretch for me there has been the issue of thinking about scarcity versus abundance.
Mm,
Living with the idea like if there's not enough to go around, and
mm,
being really challenged to say God is he's not he doesn't have a scarcity mindset. He
yeah.
gives abundantly. Like I love how in the story of the fish and the loaves, he doesn't just he doesn't just feed the people there. He makes
Mm.
more than anybody can eat and says, here, take a doggy bag home with you.
I know.
Like
Yeah.
he's an abundant and extravagant God. And somewhere I got
Yeah.
the idea that there's this limited amount of resources and blessing, or even if God blesses me, he won't be able to bless them. Or
Mm.
the jealousy of when I see someone else being blessed, I'm like, oh, now they got blessed. I guess I can't be. And
Um,
so that's all part of it for me is having to grow in that. And you'd think after 21 years of pastoring, I'd be better at that, but I'm
it's a
not.
process, right?
I'm still growing.
I feel like it's all such a process, and
Yeah.
truly there's, I don't know about you, but there's areas that, need more strength training for sure.
What without a doubt. Without a doubt.
For sure. Like I kind of call it the resistance training and even weight training, WAIT training. There's an
Yeah.
element of having to wait because we are in a world that thinks that our business should, maybe grow in a day. And it's
Right.
like part of the
Exactly.
process. And it would be great.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
But yeah, there's such an impact that you have here that you carry, and I'm just thrilled to, just even get to hear your story today and be able to
Yeah.
share it with others. So I would love for you to share with us before we
Okay.
close. Would you be just willing if you could think of this one person who's listening in today? Because I do this for the one.
Hmm.
And as I shared with you, one times one in the world is one, and one times one in the kingdom is exponential. So we're focusing on this one today. If you have any words of encouragement, additional wisdom that you'd want to share over this one, and then would you pray us out today?
Yeah, absolutely. It's I remember listening to a podcast several
Mm.
years ago between just two men that were talking. One of them happened to be a pastor, and it was like he was reading my
Oh,
mail. Everything he said was like me, and my
mm,
heart was racing, and I felt a surge of hope because I felt like, hey, that's me. If he
mm,
can do that,
mm,
then maybe there's a chance for me. And my hope for that one is that someone is listening today who in some story that I told, or some part of my story, they felt and they're feeling right now like that's me. The details might be different, but that's exactly where I am. And I want you to know that for me, what that looked like was reaching out to someone and saying, hey, could we talk about this? And
mm,
one step, doing that first thing that I could do, couldn't solve everything, but it took that first step. Hope is tied to agency. There's something I could do, and there's something you can do. So if you're listening to this episode and it feels like you're reading my mail, you're telling my story, and you've been waiting, you've been sitting in the background thinking that you were stuck,
Mm.
and had no options, and that this was going to be where you were for the rest of your life. I can't tell you what God would like to do through you, but I know that He would love to do something in your life. He may just be waiting for you to send that email, make that phone call, or even just make a decision. I'm going to take that first step. If I just knew what it was, I would take it,
Mm.
because that will be the beginning of a radical change that can happen in your life. It did for me, and I know it can for you. So
Yeah.
for whoever that one is that needs to hear that today, let
Mm.
me close this out in prayer then.
Yes, thank you.
Abba, I love you. You're so good. I've really enjoyed the conversation that I've been able to have with Kristin.
Mhm.
And I know that there are people who are listening. They're not listening at the moment that I'm speaking these words into this microphone, but it will feel like that to them. And you already know who needs to hear it. And I believe you're going to be working to ensure that when this episode is dropped, that that person is listening.
Mhm.
And maybe it'll be more than one. You can take 5 loaves and 2 fish and feed a multitude. So you can take a 60-minute conversation
Mhm.
and magnify it and multiply it to help as many people as have a need. That's what you do. And I just pray that you would encourage the one today who needs that encouragement, that one with just a spark of hope inside of them, that you would fan that into a flame.
Mhm.
And Lord, that they would lean into you and lean into what they can do. We're all growing. None of us are where we want to be or even ought to be, but help us as we grow to follow you, to keep our eyes on you,
Yeah.
to recognize the stories that we have that are worth telling, and to see that life is made up of those stories and ours are important too. So we love you, and I pray a blessing over those who are listening, and we thank you for it in Jesus' name.
Mm.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Mark. You've been such a blessing.
Oh, this is so
I
much
just want
fun.
to make sure that we capture again, how can listeners get in touch with you? Where can they find you? And then could you just tell us a little bit more about this workshop coming up? Um,
Sure. So you can find me on Facebook, which is where I'm most active. You can find my Facebook profile, Mark Foster, and you can do it facebook.com/Mark Foster 80. That's a horribly branded one, but at least my name's in it.
it worked.
So Mark Foster 80. And then you can also email me, mark@masterstorycraft.com, which is also my website. So they can contact me either of those ways. The storytelling workshop is on September the 25th. It's at 12 p.m. Eastern time. And there are still slots available for that. And it'll be a 90-minute workshop where I'll teach what I call the vowel framework. It's just a framework for how to find, craft, and deliver your stories. And it's intended for absolute beginners, or maybe you've been trying to tell stories, but you want to try to hone that a little bit. You're welcome to come in for that. It's not a free workshop. There is a cost to it, but you can find all those details. And I don't mind saying it's a $50 workshop for 90 minutes. You'll get the recording afterwards as well. And you can find that on the events page on my Facebook profile. But I would love to have as many people as possible join. I mean, this will already be done. Obviously, I don't know if it'll be done
Well, I
already,
might sneak
but
it in a little early. I
yeah,
might
it
get this
will.
in.
And
I
if
might get
and
this in beforehand.
okay,
Yeah.
and yeah, so and then once that one's done, we'll be doing others. So and then so you can let me know if there's any way that I can help you out when it comes to honing the craft of storytelling.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being a brave voice who's setting many free.
Thank
I'm going
you.
to close with the Hope Unlocked anchoring verse. It's, may the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace in believing, so that by the power of the Holy Spirit, you may abound in hope. And that's Romans 15:13. So thank
Yeah.
you again, Mark. I will be back with another episode next week. Have a great day, listeners.